I am not an expert on Mississippi workforce development, or for that matter, Mississippi industries and its economy. But I do know that the manufacturing, retail, and healthcare ranks as its leading industries, and I also know that this accounts for more than 60% of employment in the state. When you look at healthcare alone, you notice that there are significant changes that are occurring right here in the state, and those changes extend to the way that the workforce is going to be structured. When you add to that the fact that we're dealing with global competition, particularly with the expansive use of technology, well, the state and the MEC has quite a job ahead of it in terms of staying ahead of the curve. I noticed that in the brochures that are handed out, it speaks about the importance of competitiveness from MEC's perspective. But I'm not here today to speak as much on the topic of Mississippi workforce development as I am to speak about national trends. And workforce trends, in my opinion, are guided by one very simple concept, and that is what is and is not being done to further develop worker skills to meet employers' needs and expectations. Across the nation, the skills gap is widening. There are jobs available, but a shortage of qualified workers. And according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, there are over 5 million job openings. You add to that the fact that there was a survey conducted by Career Builder which found that employers have openings for jobs that they cannot fill qualified candidates. This gap will continue until training aligns with employers' needs and expectations. The unemployment rate amongst youth between 16 and 24, it's about 14%, is more than double when it comes to African American communities. These numbers continue to show the need for the Job Corps program, and as Chrissy mentioned, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary of providing services to almost 3 million youth across the country. And these youth who have graduated have found gainful employment. In fact, over 84% of our graduates are placed in jobs that join the military or continue with higher education. Then each year, the Job Corps campuses give tens of thousands of youth an opportunity to develop their skills, as well as to graduate from high school. And right here in Mississippi, we're proud of the Job Corps centers that we have in Gulfport, Batesville, and Crystal Springs. Together in Mississippi, they provide services for over 700 students, and they end up with training in areas that range from business technology to office administration. The centers are managed by those who are committed to dealing with the problem of youth unemployment, and includes the Minot Corporation, which manages 2 of the centers here in the state. Job Corps is 100% federally funded. It has a budget of $1.7 billion. We're seeking increases in that funding so we can service an additional 3,500 students. So Job Corps has proven through the 50 years that it is the answer to the challenge of teenage unemployment or those who are underserved. Last year, the Congress passed the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. The President signed it into law. And that basically governs the $11 billion plus federal programs that deal with workforce development. I will say quickly, you guys just switched up on times for me. I'm rushing through, and it was 7 minutes, and now it's 4 minutes, so you're giving me extra time. Let me go back and start over. But I was speaking of WIOA, as we call it by acronym, but it's the Workforce and Innovation Opportunity Act. And the reason that Congress passed and the President signed into law this legislation was that there was a need to consolidate the programs, the federal job programs, which amount to more than $11 billion. And these programs were being aligned based on skill sets and targeted sectors of those who it served. And it was the first time in about 16 years that Congress had dealt with the issue of consolidating and reauthorizing the programs in this area. So it's a major deal. It's a huge issue because these federal programs have to work together in a more cooperative fashion. and have to deal with implementing systems that will be effective in promoting the better usage of government funds. Pursuant to the law, the Departments of Education and the Department of Labor have published the proposed rulemaking. And the regulations itself are over 100 pages, and it takes a while to go through and to analyze and to really take in the implication of the proposed regs so that you can provide comment. Public comments are being accepted through June 16th, so there's a 60-day period to provide the public comment. And we invite those of you who have had the opportunity to look at the proposed rule to provide any comments by going to the website of www.regulations.gov. For those of you who are perhaps not familiar with the implications of the legislation or the law, we invite you to visit our website so you can learn more information. But one thing is absolutely uncertain, and that is now I get it. The numbers are going down. That's what's happening. So I have 2 minutes remaining. Boy, oh boy, they didn't teach me that in law school. But I want to say that no matter whose perspective that you're looking at as far as when it comes to workforce development, youth play an integral, long-term, and sustained role. And to do so, we've got to have the opportunity to provide youth with the training that they need so they meet you and the business community, your expectations and your needs. And that alignment is absolutely critical, not just in the context of these federal programs that deal with workforce development, but workforce development that occurs at the state and local level. So as the leader of the National Job Corps Association, I'm here today in part to sort of share with you the hopes and expectations that we have with regard to our young people and the ability of the Job Corps program to be a key component in any national or, for that matter, state effort, like right here in Mississippi, that further addresses the workforce needs that will serve us effectively in this global economy. And so I thank you for listening to me, and I'm looking forward to listening to my fellow panelists and perhaps answer any questions that you might have.
Good morning. And coming this morning, I must say that I have one of the best jobs in the state of Mississippi in that I get to work with young people across the state and actually cultivate their minds, because I believe workforce development starts very early. Being in 52 high schools across the state of Mississippi, our program, Jobs for Mississippi Graduates, is one where we seek to engage young people. We seek to plant the seeds that our workforce here in the state of Mississippi is one that needs them to remain in our state and actually become our workforce of tomorrow. Our program is one where we seek to work with young people who are considered at risk, and I do not like that term, but we work with these young people. We teach them employability skills. We teach them how to interview. We teach them how to construct their resumes. We work with them on how to go and do online job searches, but we also work with them as it relates to their character, as it relates to having workforce development skills, being punctual, knowing how to dress, how to conduct themselves once they are employed. This school year, we are serving about 1,800 young people across the state. These young people are in grades from middle school through 12th grade. Last year, for our seniors that were in our program, we had a successful graduation rate of 94.5%. I like bragging about our statistics because it shows that we are working with our young people and we're very successful at that. Our young people in our program come to our program and they have no awareness of what jobs exist in our state. They have no concept of how they go about applying for jobs, the whole 9 yards. So our program is one where we are there in the trenches very, very early, ensuring that the workforce development for our state, for the future, that we start with our young people. I'm happy to report that we have a very, very strong board of directors from Ingalls Shipbuilding there in Pascagoula to Nissan to our healthcare industry with St. Dominic, UMC. We have also on our board the finance industry. We have customer service industry, our energy industries as well. So with a strong board of directors, we have a dedicated staff of about 60 teachers who work with our young people, and we have a strong parental involvement component where we seek to work with parents to ensure that their young people are prepared for our workforce of tomorrow. So in a nutshell, Jobs for Mississippi graduates, we're ensuring that our workforce development, our workforce efforts of tomorrow start very early in our high schools. And I'm elated to report that it's a great program. We certainly are appreciative of Mr. Taylor for informing us that our unemployment rate with our young people is so vitally important to our workforce of tomorrow. So if you have any questions of me and our program, I'll be glad to answer. But certainly, Jobs for Mississippi graduates, we're there. We're here in this state. We've been around for 22 years. So that lets you know that as a nonprofit, we are about the business of ensuring that our workforce is entrenched for tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I'm Patrick Sullivan. I'm glad to be here with all of you as business leaders and community leaders. We view each of you as partners, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how you can be helpful. I'm going to talk about Get on the Grid. It's a website we've developed, an educational resource aimed at increasing awareness and interest in specific careers that are in high demand, both in energy and advanced manufacturing. We very recently launched the website publicly. So we've been getting around the state, working on awareness, trying to spread the word. Meredith Gunn on our staff was in Starkville recently talking to several 8th grade classes. That's part of an effort we call focus groups. Our audience is primarily teenagers in Mississippi, secondarily their parents, and then adults that may be seeking better career options. So we were in front of this focus group of 8th graders, Meredith was, presented Get on the Grid on them and asked a few very simple questions before and after the presentation. I was going through the responses this week, and some of the responses were very good. Some of the responses were pretty striking, but one of the questions was, do you think you'll be able to find a job in the state of Mississippi? And 7 out of 10 in these 8th grade classes said either no or they really weren't sure. Another question was, briefly describe in just a few words what jobs in energy or manufacturing look like. And no surprise to all of us, but the response was the typical stereotype that these are very physical, very dirty jobs, not consistent with reality, which is this sector is very highly technical these days. Also, we asked a job about income. So what are your expectations? How much money do you think you need to make to support your family? And the answers ranged from $3,000 a year to $3 million a year. Now there's a lot of good answers in between, and 8th graders, so some of them may be goofing off a little bit. But the point of all that is there's a real issue of awareness, and it's nothing that any of us in this room don't know. So very briefly today, in the 4.5 minutes remaining, I'm going to tell you about the why, the what are we doing about it, and then what the goal is. So, the why is jobs in energy and manufacturing typically pay 2 to 3 times the average private sector wage. These are very nice livings. That's the goal of all of us here, is we want average household incomes in all of our communities to be higher, because there's a very strong correlation between household income levels and quality of life within communities. So we need to turn people on to where these jobs are, what they look like, so we can start at a very young age, start to have them consider these as career options. Of course, kids are very familiar with all the things they know about doctors, lawyers, teachers, what their moms and dads do, but there is a real lack of awareness for what these careers look like. There's a newspaper article in the USA Today last fall that talked about middle skilled careers, technical level careers. And one of the points it made was that by 2017, there's going to be 2.5 million more of these jobs in the U.S. Now that doesn't count That's additional jobs. That doesn't count an aging workforce and filling retirees. So more than 2.5 million jobs, technical level. Not all these are in energy and manufacturing. Some of them are, healthcare technicians and things like that. But if you put that in the perspective of Mississippi, Mississippi is about 1% of the population of the U.S. So our share of that would be 25,000 jobs. And actually, all of us here have very robust goals for our state. So actually, we would want our share to be much higher than 1%. So the obvious question there is, will we be ready? Can we produce that kind of quantity at the quality that's needed, and then make the case to the outside world that the workforce supply exists here? So our product is not the savior. It's simply an educational resource that we hope will be used. We're working and collaborating with Ramona and her organization. We simply hope, and she has, that they use this as a resource within their programs. We're starting to work with P2P. We had a conversation last night over cocktail hour, which I think is a great time to do business. And so I'm going to briefly walk you through the website. What we did is we just took some screenshots here. I didn't want to risk the wireless access here at the convention center, but this is right on the home page. The goal here is to very quickly get students engaged, educate them. There are opportunities here. These are very nice opportunities. This is where you go to find out about them. This gets you right into this is also on the home page, right into the meat of the site. We're starting out with 12 very specific careers, 9 of which are technical level, 3 are professional level engineers. And they can click on each of these, which will take them to a page like this. This is one of them, industrial maintenance technician. These are students who are trained and qualified, or young people who are trained and qualified to work on and operate equipment, highly automated equipment, hydraulic equipment, at manufacturing facilities or at energy companies. You see here, it's very much designed to sell the position. So we don't give them what the Bureau of Labor Statistics say is the average income level. Instead, we try to educate them on what the opportunity is. That you may start out at one level, but the opportunity in this case is you can make $100,000 a year or more, depending on where you are, depending on your experience level. There's not another resource out there in Mississippi, or really anywhere that I've seen that does that. We've produced some very high quality videos. You last about 30 seconds to give them an idea. Now, we don't want these students calling us. We will take their call, but we would rather them call the education professionals, those at community colleges. So we've got contact information there. MEC has been a very great partner with us. We're trying to encapsulate all this as the same thing, which is reaching students, directing them to a pipeline. MEC Tech Masters and Mississippi Scholars is another way, and a very complementary way to do that, with STEM-based curriculums, emphasis in high school. All of this has been privately funded. Here are just a few of our corporate partners. We've got about 30 corporate partners. Any of you, if you're interested in your organization or your company being part of Get on the Grid one way or the other, talk to me afterwards. And what you can do is you can encourage people to go visit our website. That's where we're at. We're trying to spread the word out there. As they say, it does take a village. So we hope you can be a part of this and spread the word in your communities. Thanks.
All right, we have a trifold problem in this country that we're trying to help solve. And the first fold of that problem is a definition of success in our country that is too narrow. Traditionally, we have told our children that the really only way to become a successful adult is through a 4-year degree, but these college graduation statistics reveal a weakness in that thinking. The second fold of our problem is an unemployment rate that you've already heard about here in Mississippi that's simply too high, that then is a disconnect with the third fold of the problem, which is a skills gap. And it is a nationwide problem, but is illustrated by this quote from former Ingalls Shipbuilding President Erwin Edenson, where it's clearly an issue that the leaders of our industries are facing every day when they get up in the morning. The great thinker Albert Einstein said we can't solve the problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them, which means it's time for new thinking. The Jackson County Chamber of Commerce Education Committee heard about a program in Mobile, Alabama, an interactive hands-on career expo for 8th graders called Worlds of Opportunity, and it's sponsored by the Southwest Alabama Workforce Development Council that we call SAW-DC. So the Education Committee from the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce paid a visit to this event that happens every September. And what we found was that they had modeled their event after one in Atlanta, and there's also one in Pensacola, Florida, modeled after the one in Atlanta as well. The SAW-DC group was very gracious in sharing with us what worked in Worlds of Opportunity, and even more importantly, what didn't work, as we developed a Mississippi version, which is not your father's career fair. This career experience targets younger people. Typically, employers have focused on juniors and seniors in high school, but research shows and points to earlier ages. Even kindergartners, the studies show, are ready to have an age-appropriate, realistic conversation about what they want to be when they grow up and what that actually means. But it is the 8th grade that is the right time for career exploration to take the form of an interactive, hands-on activity, because the studies show that 13 and 14-year-olds are developmentally experiencing two important transitions when it comes to career understanding, and they are an emerging autonomy and an increased capacity to actually think about their future. This is an example of our architecture and construction pathway in our second annual event that we hosted in Biloxi last November. And in this particular event, or this particular activity, they are given architectural designs to use to guide them in placing this partially framed structure. And in the Arts, AV, Technology, and Communications pathway example, this activity focuses on television production. So Karen's going to come forward and talk to us about the meat of the program. Just push that one.
Okay, so P2P is aligned with the Department of Education and the State of Mississippi curriculum, or what we call pathways, and it's developed with the input of employers, and we find that this has been very helpful to us. There are 19 academic pathways, and on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, with the recommendation of Gene Massey from the Department of Education, we broke the STEM pathway out to include those industries that are dominant on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, to include aerospace, energy, and marine science. Blake Wilson and his team have identified the industries of growth, and as you look at pathways to possibility, you'll see that each one of these areas is also included. These are the components that make a great Pathways to Possibilities event. There are lots of stakeholders, and we want to just take a moment for you to see a 2-minute video. So we hope that gives you an idea of what the event actually looks like. We will be hosting our third Pathways to Possibilities on the Mississippi Gulf Coast on November 18th and 19th, and this is a program of Jackson County Civic Action, which is led by Diane Payne. We're also excited to expand this project across the state to as many locations as possible, and Paige and I are honored to have been contracted by the Create Foundation, and we will be launching in partnership with their team Imagine the Possibilities, same type of expo on October 6th and 7th in Tupelo, Mississippi. And last but not least, we are very excited to announce that we have secured an allocation from the state, and we're going to go not only to Northeast Mississippi, but we're hoping that our next location is in the Delta. It is our intention to touch as many 8th graders across the great state of Mississippi as possible. And last but not least, you'll see our contact information, and we both have lots of business cards should you be interested in picking one up. Thank you for having us this morning.